Hi Scrappy friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we are working with this sketch from Citrus Twist Kits. If you're watching this in real time, I'm on the blog today working with this sketch, and you can go over there and read in detail about how this came together. But on this video, I'm going to show you how I put this together. So we'll put that to the side so I can refer back to it. I have some components here, and I want to tell you a little bit about what I have. I have played around with some ideas, and I think this is what I'm going with. So first off, this is going to be an 8.5 by 11 layout. You can adjust it to any size you want. You can make it bigger, 12 by 12. You can flip it, cut it in half, and make it a Life Crafted spread. Lots of options, but I'm going to follow it fairly close. So first, I wanted the main part of my layout to be white, so I'm just using an 8.5 by 11 white cardstock. I cut it down to, let's see, I cut it down by 1/2 inch on both sides so I could have a border. Now this paper in the digital collection is originally sized to 8.25 by 6, I believe. I resized it to 8.5 by 11, and I am just going to use, or I just want to see, a strip around the edges. So I did not want to waste ink from my printer and print out the middle. So in Photoshop Elements, I made a rectangular box, filled it with white, and then I printed off, this is only about 1 inch strip on both sides. Could have been even smaller, but I wanted to make sure I didn't do it too small. And what I'm going to do is put my white cardstock on top, and then you're just going to see a 1/4 inch around the edges for the border. Then when I looked at this image, the first thing I see is a pocket. And so I wanted to do a background circle and another half circle for the pocket. I think I'm going to be doing some stitching to make it a decorative element, and I'll show you that after I get that done. But what I'm thinking is I printed this paper off and I made my circles 7 inches. I made them 7-inch circles. In Silhouette Studio, I made a circle template, 7 inches, and I cut it out. Then I did the same thing with the piece of paper that I want to do for my top, or my actual pocket portion, the top part. And I didn't print off the whole thing because I knew I wasn't going to need it. Now this paper in the digital collection has a gorgeous navy blue background, and I loved it, and I felt really guilty changing it in Photoshop Elements to black. But if you look at my picture, all the girls in my picture are wearing black, and so I needed to change this to black, and I think it'll look great with my layout. And then the one girl wearing coral, it just coincidentally happens to be the same coral as what was pre-designed in the digital kit, so that is going to be perfect. So I think what my next step is going to be is to sew my pocket together. And I think what I'm going to end up doing is making some tags, putting this picture as well as some others in my pocket. I'm initially planning, I pulled out some flowers. I think I'm going to do some flower cluster embellishing and then put my title. And then I think that will be the layout. So let me put you on pause. I'm going to go over to my sewing machine, which I don't have a good way to video record. So I'm going to sew this together and I will be back. So I came back early. I wanted to show you how I hold my pieces together when I'm sewing. These are called Wonder Clips. And if you do much sewing, you know that when we put two pieces of fabric together, we need to pin it together so the fabric doesn't move. Well, instead of pinning paper, which obviously is going to make holes, I have these Wonder Clips. And they're just, you can get them at any fabric store. They work really good for adhering paper together. If you don't have them or you don't want to get them, you can also use washi tape. Something that is not going to rip your paper that you can pull up gently as you sew around. So you can see over to the side, I used some black thread on the top portion of the circle to have contrast between the black and white. And then at the bottom with the black paper, I did white stitching. And so I just sort of freehand stitched around the edge to get an approximate, I think it's about a 1/4 inch border around the entire pocket or entire circle. So now what I'm doing is working on my title. I am putting these alpha stickers down on wax paper. That's a trick that I learned a long time ago. So it helps with being able to move the title around. And I'm glad I did this because I originally thought I was going to have sort of a stair step type title and it didn't look right. So having it on the wax paper allowed me to move it around. But I am using 2 alpha stickers from the Citrus Twist shop. I believe these are called the Sadie Puffy Alphabet stickers. And then the rose gold color is just a rose gold puffy sticker. Both are still currently in the shop, and so you can check those out. I wanted to have some contrast in my title, so I picked 2 different colors with 2 different fonts. Now, I am not very creative in coming up with creative titles or fun titles. I just kind of pretty basic. And this is about my daughter getting into National Honor Society, so that's what my title's going to be. So you can see I am trying to do that stair step and it's just not working. So I am going to do 2 lines for my title. I move it around, I think, a little bit more later, but this is what I end up with. So I had been moving around the title and the floral embellishments quite a bit. I cut a lot of that out because I spent a lot of time moving things around. So as a break, I'm going to move on to starting my tags. Off camera, I die cut a bunch of hole reinforcers. I just have a die and I pulled out some of the scraps from the extra paper that I did not use, and I did some hole reinforcers. Now I'm just pulling out a pre-purchase tag and using the edges to cut off the corners of my tag. I'm just using plain white cardstock. It's the same brand as the white on the background of the page because I wanted it all to be the same shade of white. So this tag is approximately 4 by 6 inches. It's an 1/8 inch around the picture, except for the top is closer to 1 inch. And there will be nothing on the back other than this hole reinforcer. And then I'm just pulling out some black ribbon from my stash. It has a little bit of a sparkle to it. I would have loved to have some coral color ribbon, but I didn't have anything that was even close to that in my stash. So I'm just using black and it works out great in the end. So I finish this tag and then I start to put it in the pocket and realize my pocket is not adhered. So I will go back to the main portion of the spread and get everything adhered down and then go back to finish up my tags. So now I am gonna tape down my circle. I end up adhering it close to the bottom. As you can see, some of the bottom portion of the video is not in view. I don't think you missed too much. So basically, if I remember correctly, I'm going to say a 1/2 inch from the bottom, and that gives me enough room at the top for my title. I had my embellishment cluster initially over to the right side at the bottom. I moved it more to the middle because I want to add another small flower cluster to the top of my flower, kind of pointing to my title. Now these flowers are from an older kit just a couple months ago, the Slow Days collection from Citrus Twist. If you have those in your stash, you can pull them out because they match the Life in Motion paper excellent. And if you don't have them, they are still in the shop, so you can check those out. I am now adhering down my title. As you can see, I am starting with the center letters, so the S and the R, and then working my way out. And that helps me get things lined up a little bit better than if I was starting with the H in honor and trying to work across. Now, what I find funny about myself is, despite using this T-square ruler, I still have a hard time getting things straight. It's just my deficiency in life is trying to get those straight, even with a ruler. But in the end, it works out. I end up moving over the word honor because I did want the H to overlap on the flowers, but what you see in a minute is the H is on top of that peachy color flower too much, and it just blends in, and it's really hard to see any of that letter at all. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But I am now going to add some foam dots to one of my flowers just to add some dimension and make that cluster a little bit more interesting. I do it also to the bottom cluster as well, which you'll see in a minute. And then also from the Slow Days Ephemera die cut pack are these more neutral color sprigs and some flowers. They're sort of a goldish brown color. They're not shiny, but they're just a neutral. And I really liked adding that to my colorful flowers. Just added some depth and interest to the color palette. So I'm just getting everything set down. I'm using my pokey tool to get some of the backs off of the foam squares. I have such a hard time getting those backs off. But I'm putting everything down, and once I get the flowers done and the title down, I'm going to go back to work on my tags. And those tags are going to be pretty simple. My other ones are going to be 3 by 4 inches approximately, and I'm going to adhere some pictures to both sides and then a journal tag. So I'll mention the journal tag that's coming up that you're going to see in a minute. I actually played around with that in Photoshop as well. There was a sentiment on one card that I really liked, and then the color palette on a different card that I really liked. So in Photoshop, I combined the two to get exactly what I wanted. And again, that's just a great benefit to digital collections, is you can mix and match things and cut and paste and make them exactly the way you want. And if you don't have something like Photoshop, you can just print them out exactly as they're designed, and they're gorgeous both ways. So here I had my national letters put down, but I thought they were spaced a little too far apart, so I just I'm moving them over to have a more natural spacing with my word. And soon I'm going to start moving the bottom letters over. But for the most part, I think this spread is coming pretty close to completion. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions about how this came together, or if you have any questions about the collections or how I got them adjusted in Photoshop. I'm working on doing a video of how I work in Elements, Photoshop Elements, but I need to figure that out, some logistics about that first. So there you can see I moved the word over, and I like that better. I still like that it overlaps with the flowers, but you can see the H and therefore read the word a little bit better. So I'm just tucking this, I'm going to tuck this under the circle, so there's some layers there. So again, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. It really helps me out. Let me know in the comments if you are going to use the sketch in any way. You can also, if you make something using the sketch from the beginning. If you tag me on social media, I would love to see what you put together. And then go check out the Citrus Twist Kits blog. There are some more still shots over there and some links to the products that I used here and more of a write-up on how everything came together. So there's a few more images of me just playing around and adhering the flowers down and then finishing up my last couple tags. So I'll tell you, this spread was inspired because my daughter had just been invited to join the National Honor Society at her high school. And that is a great honor. She works very hard on her grades, so we are very proud and impressed with her accomplishment. But in addition to documenting that, I also wanted to document the fact that every one of her friends in her friend group also got initiated into the National Honor Society. And I thought that was really impressive. I just was so impressed with her friends and the fact she hangs out with such a great group. And I wrote a lot of that into the journaling as well. And so the large picture is all her friends, and I just love the picture together. So yeah, so that is what inspired this spread in addition to the sketch. But when I saw the sketch with the pocket and the multiple pictures, I thought that's going to be perfect because I had several pictures from her walking from her seat to the stage, and they weren't that great. I was farther back in the stands. There was people's bodies or heads in the way, and I cropped them as best I could. But what works out perfect is I kind of printed them small. I then put them on the tags, and then obviously when you put them in the pocket, you don't really see them as well. And so that was a great way to be able to fully tell the story of the day and the event, even though the pictures weren't that great a quality. And then the picture that I love with my daughter and all her friends, I printed that one as large as I could to fit in the pocket. Now, part of the tag from part of the ribbon from the large tag goes over the title, and I kind of questioned if I wanted to keep it that way because you don't see the full title. I think it's still readable. But I reprinted the picture, the large picture, smaller, and I didn't like it as much. I really wanted that picture big. I really liked it. And so, yeah, so now I'm just finishing up. Like I said before, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Please give me a thumbs up if you like this spread. And I hope you get some time to be crafty today. If you make something with this sketch, please tag me on social media. I'd love to see what you put together. I'll see you in the next video.